Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to Live at the Waterhole. My name is Amy and I will be with you for the show today and most of the rest of the week actually. So I'm very excited to be here with you all and I'm very happy to be back on the show. It's wonderful to be starting off here in the beautiful East Africa at Old Donyor Lodge, and there are some lovely elephants and giraffe to greet us. Now remember everyone that this is of course a live and interactive show, so please do make sure that you say hello to me. Let me know who you are, where you're watching from, what you're looking forward to about the show, maybe some cool sightings for our regular viewers that I've missed out on in the last week and a bit that I've been away. And yes, I'd love to know what's been going on. And you can send those through on the Wild Earth website or the app. You can also chat to us in the YouTube chat stream, or you can join the conversation on X using the hashtag Wild Earth. What a beautiful scene to start off with. Wow. This giraffe's very brave. Not often that we actually see them coming up while other animals, especially elephants, are still at the water. But since they stopped drinking, I think this giraffe's feeling confident enough to come up and have a bit of a drink, perhaps thirsty enough as well to do so. James, hi to you. You're watching from Cambridge University in the United Kingdom. Well, it is wonderful to have you with us, James. Thank you for saying hello. Mercedes, always great to hear from you. You say hello to me, the Wild Earth crew, and all the chatters. Happy Tuesday. Grace, you say good morning, everyone. And Sarah, you're also from the UK, and you say, hi Amy, nice to hear your voice again. It is so good to be back, Sarah. And yes, I'm excited to chat to you all as well as be on the show and guide you through what we see at the waterholes across Africa. Looks like a lovely sunny day here in Kenya with a bit of cloud cover. Oh, and Mount Kilimanjaro is showing in the background. I just noticed that now, below the giraffe's neck. You can just see the top of the mountain there, sort of the ice cap showing. Yes, Nadine's directing the show today, and absolutely, I thought it was a cloud until I don't know if they moved or maybe my eyes just adjusted to the scene. But I can see there now that that's sort of the top of the largest freestanding mountain in the world. Deb Davis, hello to you. You're joining us from Pennsylvania in the eastern part of the United States. Lovely to have you with us. Welcome. Mr. Ellie, you say you are joining us from a very windy harbour in Western Australia. Lovely to have you here. And Joanne, of course, hello to you. You are watching from Massachusetts in the USA. Isn't it incredible, everyone? It always is amazing when I hear from all of you watching from all parts of the globe, how we all come together to enjoy the same thing, nature, and unite in that way, which is just a beautiful thing. And it's just great that I get to chat to you all, and this is how we can connect with you and with nature. there we go. We're getting a little bit of a closer look there at the mountain. Isn't that beautiful? Wow. I recently watched a documentary, and I love watching all of the nature documentaries, but there was one that it's quite an old one relatively. I think it was made either the late 90s or early 2000s, about particularly looking at the elephants of East Africa. But they obviously, in that documentary, they cover a lot about the whole sort of habitat and the ecosystem, and how the sort of the land and the ecology of East Africa works. And a big part of that history, the geology, that sort of thing, has to do with these sort of volcanic mountains that are in the area, which is so unique and has led to the ground being very fertile as well. And the largest of that, which is now currently dormant and has been for a number of years, is Mount Kilimanjaro. And actually historically made of 3 different volcanoes or mountains that sort of merged to form this huge mountain that's so big in comparison to the ones around it. So it's fascinating to understand also how the glacier, the sort of ice cap on top of the mountain, works to provide water to the surrounding area and the water systems that, are around it, which is fascinating as well. And a huge conservational and sort of climate issue that we are facing is the shrinking of that ice cap on top of Mount Kilimanjaro, and what are the consequences of that going to be? Is it going to disappear completely? Is it going to be there like it is now? We don't know for sure, but it's all very eye-opening when you delve into these topics. Lots of birds around here today at Oldonyo. I think there was an Namakwa dove there briefly that I saw, but one thing I haven't seen too much of are the superb starlings, which are this beautiful species of glossy starling that we find here in East Africa. That, as well as Shelley's or Hildebrandt's starling, they really are beautiful. And I don't know if there's sort of movement to when they're seen and when they're not seen. But for me personally, I haven't seen them since last year at the waterhole here. A lot of you watching, commenting about Mount Kilimanjaro, and just as quickly as we've seen it, it has clouded over again. And indeed, it is often clouded over just because of the height of it and the weather systems that come through. So when we do have a clear day or gaps like this, it's always lovely to take a moment to appreciate it. Celeste, you say this is your favorite waterhole because of the mountain and how magnificent it is, and clear days are just indescribably beautiful. It's always green, and yes, just like the scene that we have in front of us with two beautiful elephants as well. They look to actually be having a bit of a snooze, to be honest. You can see the one on the left, and a little while ago the one on the right as well had their trunks right on the ground. Oh, there we go. And that's often an indication that they are just switching off a little bit. Oh, there we go. Wow. It's inspiring, isn't it? It's sort of like this floating, I don't know, I guess mountain is really the only word to describe it, but it's sort of floating in the sky, not that it's actually attached to the ground. So I've just checked exactly how high Mount Kilimanjaro is because I didn't want to just give an estimate. I knew it was about 5 kilometers above sea level, which is around 5,000 meters, but it's actually 5,895 meters above sea level. That is very far. I think if I run 5Ks, how far that is. What that is, maybe 3.2 miles or so, maybe. So that's just straight in a line from the sea up, that is very high. So it's incredible to think of that. It's one of the most remarkable, I think, scenes that one can ever really try to, well, obviously experience, to be there in, the shadow of this mountain, whether it's the Amboseli or even here at Eldonyo, to have that view with sort of these plains below, but to understand the history geologically, which, I'm learning more and more about in terms of the volcanic side of the area, which you don't associate. I mean, I personally don't associate volcanoes with East Africa, but they are here. And you think, volcanoes, islands, Iceland, I don't know, other areas, it's Pompeii, that sort of Mount Vesuvius. But you don't think of Africa and volcanoes. Well, I never used to think of it that way. But they are very much here, and even some that are relatively active as well. Spas, you'd like to know what lives where Mount Kilimanjaro is. So a lot, actually. Obviously, the very top of it is super limited because of the conditions. But as I say, the land surrounding the mountain and on its foothills is extremely fertile, and a lot of the local tribes actually farm on that area. But also animals do have place where they also live, and I mean, I know obviously not right to the top, but I do believe elephants can be seen on the foothills. They go up to a certain point where they also find food. Certain species of monkeys, like the colobus, or even the blue monkey. Birds like white-necked raven. There's bush babies or galagos that are also can be seen. I think there's even specific Kilimanjaro shrew that can be seen there as well. So there's a lot. I mean, serval, all sorts of the sort of savanna animals, many species, and of course as you go further up towards the peaks, so I think the variety of species will become more and more limited due to the harshness of the conditions. Catherine, you say that you haven't seen Kilimanjaro in a long time here. It's beautiful, isn't it just? It really is something. Even me, I haven't seen it for a long time here either. A glimpse sometimes, but there's so often clouds in the sky. wonder if these two are just hanging around until they get thirsty enough again and are just lazy to walk away and then have to walk back again when they want something to drink. Lenny, you said that wonton, one of the well-known elephant tuskers here that we see often at this waterhole, has been around the last few days, which is fantastic to hear. I haven't seen him in so long. A few weeks ago, when I was on the last time I was on the show, we were talking about this particular elephant and when he'd last been seen. So I'm glad he's been around. Hopefully this week, now that I'm back with you all, that I'll be lucky enough to have him pop in on the show for us. Well, it's always nice to see the baboons at Lentor, so let's head over there before they disappear. This is one of my favorite spots to be and to watch. It always seems so peaceful here under the shade of an enormous banana tree. We often have the baboons coming here, plenty of birds as well. We have a whole family here. Oh, there's a tiny little one on mom's belly there. Oh, look how she holds it as she bends down to drink. It was just a perfect size order, the biggest one, and then it was like a dad, mom, and baby. Boop, you'd like to know how hot it gets here. So East Africa, I believe temperatures can get as high as 45 degrees Celsius. So that's very, very warm. 113 degrees Fahrenheit, just to put that into Fahrenheit for those of you who are more familiar with that system. But I think, that's not every day. That's sort of the highest sort of in East Africa. But probably in the 30 degrees Celsius range. Sometimes it can be a lot cooler depending on the season as well. Rains come and cool things down a little bit. Wow, that is a large baboon. Goodness me. I'm always surprised with how big their shoulders can appear. I suppose hunched down like that, it does make them look a lot broader. You can hear these baboons calling now, not really calling, communicating, and sometimes there's a bit of discipline that goes on with the odd screeching here or there. It sounded like there was coughing when we first arrived, and Nadine and I both weren't sure if this was actually the baboons or someone that was nearby looking at the waterhole, but probably actually a baboon that was coughing. Boop, I know when they sit like that they do look so human, and often they'll sit and they'll stretch out their foot and then they'll take their hands and sort of be so precise with checking each other. Oh, there we go, the perfect example of that. And unlike humans though, that may sort of groom each other and look for anything to remove naturally, we want to actually, I spent the last weekend checking myself for ticks. So it doesn't, and my husband, so that does remind us of us, what we were doing over the last few days to make sure that we don't get tick bite fever. But unlike the baboons, we don't eat the ticks that we find. These guys love to eat the parasites that they find on each other. And they are endlessly entertaining, aren't they? The guy just sits there now. Okay, now do my front side, please. Boop, yes, absolutely. Baboons can definitely get sick. They can suffer from a number of different diseases. I have actually seen a sick baboon. It was heartbreaking, but it is the wild, so these things happen. So whether it's an infection that can happen from an open wound and bacteria and that sort of thing. It can also be disease like tuberculosis. Baboons can suffer from that. And yeah, those are sort of the main, they can also, I suppose, get anthrax if that is around at a particular dry season. But they can absolutely get sick and suffer from various diseases, infections. They are resilient though. Animals out here are incredible. It's incredible what they can deal with and survive, but they can absolutely get sick as well. This is just fantastic to watch. Wow, so cool. And you'd like to know how big are baboons? So they do vary in size. The species we're looking at here, as well as the species that we get in Southern Africa that we are quite familiar with, that we see in our live drives, in our safaris, the chakma baboon. I think these are either yellow or olive baboons that we're looking at now, but the chakma are the largest that we find, and the males are bigger than the females, and generally the female baboons sort of maybe even, I would say, half the size of the males as an adult. So the male can weigh up to about plus minus 45 kilograms, and the females are about half that, around 22 or so, in terms of fully grown mature adults. So they're very large. Height wise, they can stand anywhere from sort of, I would say, if a male baboon, they sort of stand a meter. If they stand up, it can even be 1 meter 20, 1.2 meters. So they really are large animals, relatively. So like I say, the males will be larger than the females in general, but 1.2 meters, that's pretty intimidating, I must say, especially if they get up on their hind legs. Adrian Yerster, you'd like to know, how do they know when they have found a tick under all that fur? And I think it's all about feel. So this one is really enjoying this at the moment, and so they can feel it with their fingers, and as soon as they feel a little bump or something like that, they know, and either use their mouth or their fingers then to remove it. It's like, carry on, please, this side. Like, no, where'd you go? Oh, that's hilarious. Sarah, you're right. This way for the grooming parlor, these baboons have settled down here next to the waterhole, and you can just see. It's interesting, though, I will say, how it tends to be the smaller ones grooming the larger ones. So, in general, then females grooming males. It's difficult to tell if that is actually the case or if it's just smaller individuals. Could possibly be younger males, I suppose, but just the ways the social structure with baboons does work, it would make sense for males to almost demand the females to groom them. It's just interesting to note this at the moment and how it is being done. So as we watch these baboons bonding through their grooming, just a reminder that our Valentine's Fireside Chat is coming up this Friday, 14 February at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time with Maxine and Eric. And there'll be a lot of fun to be had and celebration of love in the wild as we have a look at all the interesting, unusual and fascinating courtship and animal relations that take place in the wild. And that is for explorers and YouTube members only this Friday, 14 February, Valentine's Day. Well, apparently there is a good dose of cuteness at Tao, so let's head over there. Oh, they are very small. Here we have some goslings, some newly hatched, it would look like Egyptian geese babies. Oh, it's already starting to try and eat grass. Look at that. The main diet for these geese is grass. They nibble on insects and a few other things along the way, but for the most part they eat grass. They are so cute, Grace. You say cuteness for sure. I just want to cuddle them. I just want to sort of group them up and, keep them safe. Here comes mom or dad just to check on them. And Egyptian geese make great parents, relatively speaking. I mean, they can only do so much, but they are very intimidating and very protective, very territorial as well, and try and do their best to look after their little ones. Andy, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. And it is something that perhaps not only yourself, but other viewers may wonder about, is that, why are some birds, when they are born fully developed, like these little ones that we can see, they come out of that egg and they can do everything. Covered in feathers, they can see, they can smell, they can eat, they can run, they can swim, all of the things that they need to do. And then there's some chicks that are born that are completely helpless. They are naked, they're blind, they can't fly, they have like I say, no feathers, and they're completely reliant on the parents or the mother or the father to look after them, or even the host parents if it's a cuckoo or something like that. So, and basically, we refer to that, the fancy name for it is either being precocial or altricial. And these goslings that we see here are precocial, they're fully developed when they hatch, whereas the altricial are the young that are sort of naked and helpless, to put it that way. And the reason why there are these two different sort of types of bird chicks that we get are because of the adaptation to where they are placed, the habitat and where they live. So you find in most cases that precocial chicks are the ones born on the ground, or the ones that function more on the ground, whereas the little altricial chicks hatch in little nests in trees, off the ground, and they don't need to be able to move so quickly. So it's also a little bit of a defense mechanism to ensure survival rate is much higher as well. So for those birds that are ground dwelling, for the most part, their little ones come out ready to go and help them to be able to survive. Because imagine these little goslings were completely helpless, can't move, can't see, can't keep up with the parents, nothing, and they just have to stay in their little nest, which is pretty much out in the open. I mean, I think of lapwings and things like that. Their nest is literally a scrape in the ground, even oyster catchers, for example, on the coast. So they need to imagine if they were just naked and helpless and lying in the nest. I mean, anything could stand on them, anything could eat them very easily, and so they're just so vulnerable. Whereas those chicks that are in a nest, up in a tree, a little built nest or something like that, or even a tree cavity, a hollow for those who, fit into that category, then they don't need to be able to move and fly and eat straight away, or find their own food straight away. They can be reared and take time to do that. So it's quite interesting when you look into these things. Catherine. You say that they are so cute when they are small and silent. So, for those of you who have not experienced Egyptian gooses, or geese, should I say, calling, they are rather loud and they can be incessant in their calling. And here in South Africa, it just becomes sort of part of one's everyday life to an extent, depending where you live. But they're found all over now, cities to, out here in the wilderness. And yes, not the most enjoyable call, I will be honest about that. Lenny, yes, indeed. I believe that the Egyptian goose survival rate will at least till get the little ones to fledging, becoming, independent and that sort of thing. Flying is 81%. That's very high for, ground dwelling birds, basically. And especially on the smaller side relative to some of the other species and predators out here. So they really are good parents in that regard, and being able to get 81% of their little ones through to flying age. Wild at heart, yes, I can imagine. These ground nesting birds like blacksmith lapwings, and Egyptian geese, they are very vocal when anything, whether it's a lion or buffalo or an elephant or a giraffe or whatever, comes and walks too close to their nest, they are not shy to call and to get that specific animal to go in a different direction. All right, well, let's head over to KwaMaritan to some impalas. I love when we have a lot of variety on the show. Everything from elephants, giraffe, baboons, and now some impalas, or geese, and now impalas as well. Also doing a little bit of grooming, I see there. And these impalas are just growing so quickly, you can hardly tell which are actually the little ones anymore. And in a few months, they'll be once again mating, rutting season taking place in April. So it always just seems like time goes so quickly when the whole process and the cycle begins again. It's always this time where things get quiet and animals leave and that sort of thing, that you never know what's going to pop up next. And it's part of why I think we all love the bush so much, and waterholes as well, because eventually something will come to the water, whether it's a large animal or just a smaller bird or something like that. And it's just the appearance of that animal that is completely unpredictable, that makes it so exciting. Well, now that those impalas have moved off, let's head back over to the baboons in East Africa. Oh, there's a very little one. Is it going to come and drink? Oh, it's so cute. So when they still sort of... Oh, wow. They just moved it out of the way. I know we sometimes speak of manhandling, but that was baboon handling. Oh, it's coming again. It's coming again. And I mean, baboons are quite rude to each other, I must say. I mean, there's not much respect, I don't think. Perhaps, yes, between sort of the big males, and they know sort of, the others know their place. But they are not afraid to give the little ones discipline and place them in order. There was actually a question earlier about that discipline, and it's sort of just chasing them off, shouting at them. Sometimes they can get into physical altercations, whether it's like a swat or a jab or something like that, and chasing and baring teeth at each other. And then the little ones, you just and they run away. There's a little one going back to I don't know if that's mom. Oh, look at it. And when they're so small like this, they're still black with the very pink ears. We know that they're under 2 months old. So after the 8-week mark, they start to change color and their ears start turning black, and their fur starts to become more gray, or depending on the baboon species. But they're all sort of a grayish tone. How cute is that? I don't know if I've ever seen a baboon lie almost like a cat. Looks a little bit like a leopard lying there. This little one is too cute. Oh, did you see it just collapse there? I wonder if that's Mom. Oh, that is so sweet. It must be so interesting for this little one to sort of work out, how does it fit into the society. And this is obviously a male here that we can see on the right. I think the young one's also a young male. But to see this little one interacting with a much older male and that he's okay with it, there's no, this is the first time, I must say, seeing such a small baby separate from Mom and actually doing some grooming. This is so cool. I mean, it knows exactly what to do. Isn't that incredible? And it's not necessarily so that is the father. There'll be multiple males within a group that would have, fought for dominance and could have mated with the same female even. There's another one. He's going to... Oh, this is so fascinating. Look at it. I grabbed it. But it just goes to show that even though sometimes they fight a lot with one another, they're not always happy. Oh, look at that. Oh, that must be Mom. That they do have a very close bond, even the males with the little ones. Dark Main Lover, you'd like to know what the gestation period for a baboon is. So it's about 6 months, just under. So yes, the females are pregnant for just under 6 months. So average is 180 days actually, 178, 180 days. Is this one resting its head against the tree? Oh, baboons are so funny. So actually relatively quite a long gestation, I suppose, in some ways. Humans being 9 months, baboons 6 months, but those babies come out quite well developed. As you can see, that little one with the black fur, they pretty much come out probably smaller, but looking very similar, and attached to Mom very much on her belly, and right there where her mammary glands are, so that the teat is there for it to drink milk pretty much any time it wants to. Mindy, you're so right. It does look like the one at the tree is just waiting for someone to come around its back and just start grooming it. It's like, come on guys, does anyone want to, please? love the one in the middle, just gave like a good little hair toss there with its fur on the back. Well, I've loved spending this time with this troop of baboons. Let's head over to Safari Hook for some zebras. Lovely. How nice to see some plain zebras here. And quite a few of them as well, which is always so pretty. And that's just so pretty with sort of the greenery around at the moment in this particular spot here at Safari Hook in Namibia, and then the sort of contrasting colors of the black and white of these zebras, and so many together, is really beautiful. And there's a little one. We've been spoilt with a lot of babies today. Wow, it's been wonderful. Mindy, that's a great question. You want to know if the tail movement in animals is a conscious thing or more of a reflex. And I think we can particularly associate the tail movement that you are probably referring to with animals like zebras, maybe elephants, even giraffes, impalas, a lot of the antelopes and things like that. You do this sort of constant flicking. Zebras in particular, I will say, are probably the most flickiest tails that I have seen in the bush. I think it's conscious. I think they have to use their muscles to be able to move that tail. It's not like breathing, which is sort of this involuntary thing that we all do, that we don't really think about it, just our body does it. Is it a reflex though? Quite possibly something that the tail just does in response to irritation. I suppose it's as much as a response as we have to when we have an itch or something bothering us. We don't even really think about it, but if there's a fly going up my nose, I'm going to swat it away, and I don't even think about not moving my hand. It just happens. So I would think maybe the tail works something like that. They don't have to put much thought into it, but I don't think it's completely subconscious where it just does it without them even having to tell it what to do, if that makes sense. But I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if we can actually know if it's completely involuntary or not. But I suppose, do they do it when they're sleeping? If we think of breathing, we do that even when we are completely unconscious. So perhaps a bit of cognitive, control over the tail, but not too much. Can just hear this little one singing, "I'm the king of the castle." It really is wonderful to see so many zebras here. It is a place that they do tend to come out. We've also seen the mountain zebras here, which has been fantastic to note the differences between the plains and mountain species. But at the moment, these all you can see have that shadow stripe. So especially looking from the side or the back, you can see a very dark black, and then the shadow, a much lighter stripe in between the two black. Oh my word, what are you doing? Digging, I suppose. Sometimes they like to loosen ground in order to sort of rub in. cleaning mechanism, get rid of excess oil and that sort of thing in their coats. They could also be eating some of the ground, which is a practice that we know that zebras do partake in, called geophagia, where they get some extra nutrients and minerals from the soil that they may be lacking. Net Nanny, it's such a pleasure. I'm so glad that we could share the show with you today. Oh wow, big smile. Dark Mane Lover, you love the zebra stripe patterns. They are endlessly, beautiful to look at. Also never tire of it. I'm always excited to see a zebra out on drive or at the waterhole. Deb Davis, yes. So these are plains zebra, previously known as Burchell's zebras. They are the ones that have this shadow stripe, which is very interesting. And I mentioned previously the other species of zebra that we find being the mountain zebra, in this area and a few other areas in southern Africa. And that doesn't have the shadow stripe, and in fact the stripes are a lot thicker and sort of difficult to describe until you see it. But even, they don't wrap all the way around the belly, and even there that we can see this sort of on the tail by this one, very sort of lots of little sort of softer stripes and that sort of thing, lighter stripes, sorry. Whereas with the mountain, it's very much bands, I would say, rather than stripes, maybe bands of black that go down, and also a different sort of interesting platish type of pattern above the tail, which these plain zebras don't have. It's just sort of one stripe that comes down. This one on the left, though, has a very black face, very dark, lots of black markings around the face, very little white. And it's interesting, the stripes are different for each zebra. Its pattern is completely unique to that individual. Boop, you'd like to know what is the type of environment that zebras' stripes camouflage in? And it can really be anything. I mean, I've seen them camouflage in habitat like this, in really dense, lush green vegetation, in open, complete, sparse, desert-like habitats like at Okakuyo. So they really are versatile in their camouflage ability. Alright, lovely. Let's head over to Tao with some elephants. Well, it's always nice to see a herd of elephants, especially with the little ones. And I think there are one or two small ones in between there, and they have come down for a drink. I think these elephants must just be so happy here at Madikwe with the rain that's fallen, with the amount of greenery that's around for them. They have some harsh times in the dry season, and I think when there's so much grass and water around, they are so happy. Also see quite a bit of bird life here. There's a spoonbill, which is African spoonbill, the white bird sort of moving around there. Egyptian geese, of course, blacksmith lapwings, two spoonbills. Quite a lot of water birds that we see around here at Tau as well, with being one of the larger waterholes in the area. Oh, cute. Let's head over to Vic Falls with some warthogs. Oh, we have seen them here a few times, but they are really enjoying a little bit of a mud wallow and late lunch at the same time. Well, we've hopped over to Chuma and there's a little squirrel. Oh my goodness. That is a baby. Definitely. Now we're having some cooler weather in the low veldt at the moment. I'm not complaining about it. It's been a massive relief after much heat that we've had. There's been a bit of drizzle today, quite a bit of wind around as well. And you can actually hear that with the ambient noise coming through. Very cute to see that little one. You may be wondering what the wire is on this tree, and this is particularly a marula tree, one of the protected species in the country, but it's actually part of research that's been done to help to see if putting that wire will prevent elephants from pushing them over. They're a very slow growing tree. And so that is part of a deterrent that's been tested out. Anyway, we can head back to those cute warthogs. and a helmeted guinea fowl. It's also come to say hello. It's always nice to see warthogs because we just don't get to spend much time with them on the live drives. Oh, these little ones are playing. Oh, that's very cute. Because they are so skittish, they just run. I mean, they are hunted by so many things out in the wild, so I can understand that they are very aware of any movement, even if it's from a vehicle, and they just run away so quickly. You can see this female's the mom. Her teats are quite swollen there between her sort of back legs and on her stomach. It's very sweet to actually watch this interaction between the piglets. Oh, wow. Oh, 4 or 5 of them. I mean, it's great that they're all still alive as well. I don't know if they're all hers or if there's another female potentially around. Often females will group together and their little ones will form sort of like a joint, don't know if nursery is really the right word, but 2 females, 5 piglets, 3 on one, 2 for another. That's often when you see larger piglet groups together. So Liz, I think they are probably eating some sort of grass, roots, maybe bulbs under the ground. There's obviously something there that they're enjoying, but they are herbivores in nature, so they will eat, vegetate matter, but they're quite specialist in the fact that they use those snouts and tusks to dig under the soil quite a bit. And they get to other things that other animals can't get to. So they will just eat grass, but then they'll also eat what we call bulbs, roots, little shoots and forbs and things like that are growing in and under the soil. Deb, you said it sounded like an American crow. I think that was a hardy-dar. I wouldn't be surprised if they sound like an American crow. They do have quite a harsh call. Yeah. This place has also just greened up so much in the last little while. I don't know if this particular tree was ever in the way of the camera. So it's also grown a bit. There are some antelopes on the far side there. I wonder if those are steenboks. I'm not sure. Could just be impala. But also the grass is so long that it's also deceiving how big the antelope actually is. Oh, there's a kudu. A whole bunch of them. A whole herd of them, should I say. Oh, this is a nice surprise. They are such beautiful antelopes, aren't they? You can see these ones with the horns are actually young males. So they still have a long way to go, probably only a few years, maybe around the 4-year mark or so, just a guess. And those horns are just beginning to sort of start to spiral. Actually a lot younger than in terms of their starting their horn growth, and that sort of, I think these males would be probably under 2 with that sort of sized horn, and it grows quite slowly, and then sort of as they get older those horns start to curl, and by the time they are let's say over 3 years, you're looking at about 1.5 to 2 curls, and then 5, sort of 7 years being in their prime. Well, it has really been wonderful to be with you today. It's been great to be back at the Waterhole show, and I think we've had a very relaxing time, a lot of variety, different species of all sorts of things that we've seen, and a big thank you to all of you for joining me here today. I will be back with you tomorrow, and I'm excited to see what else the waterholes hold for us. Thank you to all of you for your comments and questions. It's always wonderful to chat to you all. I wish you a pleasant day or evening ahead, depending where you are in the world, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye for now.